Okay, my little munchkins, today we are looking at timelines. And timelines, they can feel very, very scary and they can feel overwhelming. But if we break them down into tiny little bits and we follow the same ideas that we did with the earlier stuff by writing our little grocery list of what we have and what we need, then they're not as bad as that they seem. So this first one, I'm going to work through with you really nice and slowly. And we're going to talk about how things change and the way that we can set it up to make our life easier. And then the next one, I'm going to let you try a little bit more for yourselves. And we're going to see if we can get into some nice tricky ones by the end of the lesson. Okay. So this first example is in the timeline that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be having a change of interest. So our interest is not going to be consistent for the entire time. Let's look at what we have. They have told us that 14,000 Rand is loaned from SABA Bank. So think about our grocery list. We have P, A, I, and N. What would that letter be? What would the 14,000 Rand be if it's what we've loaned? Do we agree with the Boo? Do we not agree? It is absolutely going to be P. It's what we're starting with, so it's going to be our 14,000 Rand P. They're telling us that the interest was 16% per annum, compounded monthly for the first 6 years. Okay, how do we write this interest rate if it was 16% per annum compounded monthly? Good. So I'm going to take my 16% over 12 because it is being compounded monthly. And I know that that is happening for 6 years. Right? Okay, so that's the first part of my I. Then it changed to 13% per annum, but it was being compounded quarterly. So how can I write that one? What does it mean if it's happening quarterly? How many payments is that in a year? Good, 4 payments a year. So this part we would write 13% over 4. What was the balance? So we're looking for A of the loan after 10 years. So 10 years is our final amount. Okay, now we've got to put all of this into a timeline. When we have a timeline, we have a start point and we have an end point. Your P value is what you're starting with. So we're starting with our 14,000 Rand. That is at time 0. We don't know what our money is going to end up as. The first thing it told us was that the first set of interest was for 6 years. So we're going to pop this over here and make that time for 6. And during this time, so that first 6 years, my interest rate was 16% compounded monthly. Then, if this is T10, my interest rate became 13% compounded quarterly. So we've written it as a fun little timeline. We've put all of that information into a picture to help us figure out what's going on. And now what we need to do is actually get the answer. But now that we have a picture, it's not so scary. So your goal here is to work out your A value of this. So figure out what A would be there. And that A value becomes this one's P value. And then you're going to get your final A value. So let me know. Give it a try. If it's feeling scary, that's perfectly normal. Your formula is your compound interest formula. So A equals P 1 plus I to the power of n. So if you didn't hear what I'd suggested just now, find your A of this first 6 years. That A is going to become your P for your next 4 years. So the T's are telling us our time. So T0 means it's our beginning. It's our start. So no time has passed. T6 is saying that our time is now 6 years. And the T10 is our final, which is our 10 years. And those were taken from our story that they gave us. So it's just like a nice little way of us telling what time it is. No problem. So, yeah. Okay, so after you get your A, so think of this as 2 separate problems. Your first problem is just this scenario over here. So think of it as a normal compound interest problem where you're trying to find your A value for your 6 years and your interest is at 16% over 12. Once you have that A value, so let's say that that A value is X, okay? That then becomes your P value for the second part of the story. And that's how you then would find A. Just give me a second, guys. I got to turn the lights on. I'll be 2 seconds. Yeah, does that make a bit more sense? So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. There's a way that we can do it where it's a little bit longer, and we've just got to be careful with our rounding off. And then I'll show you a way where we can do it where it's a little bit quicker. Hello to those of you who just got here. So, Abu, you're kind of right, and you're also kind of wrong. Let's see if you can figure out where your kind of wrong is. Nope. Okay, so can you see, Leigh, you are very close to the answer, but I think that what happened is you may have rounded off things too early. So your answer isn't fully accurate. Abu, kind of yes, kind of no. No, the 4x4 is right. The 6 by 12 is right. Yeah, can you see it might be. It might be. But just remember, you would only lose 1 mark. And this question would be at least 4 marks. All right, let me know how much more time you need on this question. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Okay, I will be right back. I'm just going to go sort something out. I will be maximum 1 minute. Abu, I like that answer. Why are you getting millions? You definitely should not be getting millions, Yanda. Let's go through this. Let's go through this step by step. Okay. So let's look at the first yellow block. We're going to do this nice and slow. In this yellow block, P is 14,000. A, we don't know. I is 16% over 12. And N is 6 years being compounded monthly. So it's going to be 6 times 12, which is going to give us 72. So our A value is going to be 14,000, 1 plus 16% over 12 to the power of 72. And if we work that out, we get the answer of 36332,53626. And we have to keep these decimal places, otherwise our answer is going to be wrong. Yanda, did you get the same answer as me up until this point? Okay. Then what we have to do is we're going to work from this next section. So this next section, I'm just going to do it next to it. My P is this dude. So 36332, 53626. My A, I don't know. My I is 13% compounded quarterly, and my N is 4 years happening 4 times. So the phrase compounded monthly is, the compounded is telling you what type of interest rate it is. So we have compound interest and simple interest, and that determines what formula we use. So remember those 2 formulas we spoke about in our first one. If it says compounded monthly, it means that we are going to get interest added every single month. So our interest will be calculated. Remember, when we talk about compound interest, the interest is determined by the value of the amount of money. And so if we're doing it monthly, it means that that's just going to happen 12 times in a year instead of once a year. Okay. So now we can just pop that into our formula. So A is going to equal 36332, 53626 times 1 plus 13% over 4 to the 4 times 4, which is 16 to the power of 16. And that gives you the beautiful answer of 60608,94. And that is the answer that we are seeking. Yes, exactly. So they're adding interest 12 times in a year for 6 years. So this is the number of years. And this is the number of times in a year interest is added. So we can multiply those. And that is our final answer. That's where we stop. If we wanted to do this in a slightly easier way, so can you see, Leigh, I am speaking to you when I say this, because then you do not need to worry about rounding off early. We already know that I'm going to do it in a different color so that it's a little bit clearer. We know that this A value is our P value for our next question, right? So we can just write it exactly like that. We can say A is equal to this dude over here. So 14,001 plus 16% over 12 to the power of 72, because that was where our P, that was our A for our last one, and it became our P for this one. And then 1 plus 13% over 4 to the power of 16. And you will get your beautiful answer. Yeah, so Uyanda, that is a very, very common mistake. And it is actually what Abu did as well earlier. We don't want to add them because this 36,000 is what I have at the end over here. And then my 60 is what I have at the end over here. So we're just kind of adding them that way. We're not going to actually take the numbers and add them together. Does anyone not understand sort of the quicker way of doing this? You're not forced to do it this way. You absolutely don't have to. You can always do it different ways. But if you don't understand this one, please. Okay, Tebogo, can you tell me where you don't get it so that I can explain it a bit more? Why did you zone out? That doesn't help me. Okay, Tebogo. In this yellow section, we were looking for our A. And that A became our P for the next part of the question. So this A became our P for the second part of the question. So instead of working all of it out, we can just write it out over here, because that A value is what's going to become our P. And remember, your formula looks like this. So just instead of writing P, we're putting what P would have been. Oh, exactly. It does work wonders. You see, I tell you good things. And then you only have to put it into your calculator once. You're less likely to make a mistake. Okay, I'm going to zoom out so you can take a screenshot if you would like one. It's a bit messy, but you can if you want to. And then we're going to have a look at our next question. Yes. Okay. Second question is sneaky. I'm going to help you draw out your timeline. I'm going to explain a couple of things that I think traps you might fall into. And then I'm going to let you give this one a try by yourselves. So this is if we have deposits. We're going to draw our timeline as we go. 5,700 Rand is deposited into a savings account. So at time 0, it looks like a 6. We deposited, so I'm going to put plus for deposit, 5,700 Rand. 2 years later, another 1,900 Rand was added. So now we're at T2, and I'm adding another 1,900 Rand. A final deposit of 4,100 Rand is made 5 years after the initial deposit. So then we've got, after 5 years, we've made another deposit of 4,100 Rand. Okay, that's the first pieces of information. Next, the interest rate for the first 3 years is 13% compounded quarterly. So now we need to bring in a T3. So our interest for the first 3 years was 13% compounded quarterly. And then it decreased to 11.2% compounded monthly. Calculate how much money will be in the account at the end of 8 years. So for this time, my interest was 11.2% compounded monthly. Okay. Do you want to give it a try first? I actually think that's not the worst idea. Why don't you give this one a try? I'm wanting to know how much money I'm going to have in this account at the end of my 8 years. And know that this question would be like a good 6 or 7 marks. So you can spend time on it. You forget yourself already. Oh no. I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance just so that you don't feel completely lost in this. Work each of these as separate journeys. So look at the 5,700 Rand and look at its journey. So think about its interest rate. Then think of the 1,900 Rand and think of its journey. And then think of the 4,100 Rand and think of its journey. That's my advice. Don't try and like bring them all in. Work out those 3 different amounts and then add them together. No, your calculator won't crash because you're doing 3 separate things. Once you have all 3 amounts, you can now add them together. Yeah, I know. The last one, I was like, don't add them. And now this one, we have to add them. The beauty of maths. Because now we have to add the income stream of the yellow, the orange, and the red, whereas the last one was one single transaction. Let's see if anyone can get the magic number. So just as like a little bit of guidance, if I was looking at the yellow one's journey, I'm trying to figure out the yellow one's A. I originally started with 5,700 Rand, and my interest for it was 13% for 4 years. I mean, compounded quarterly for 3 years. So 3 times 4. I'm going to write that like that. And then my interest, because then essentially this becomes our new P. My interest becomes 11.2% compounded monthly for 5 times 12. And I can pop that straight into my calculator. You should get something like this. So use this logic to try and figure out your orange and your red. Yeah, well, it depends. So for this orange one, it's only going to be at that interest rate for 1 year. So that would just be 4 times 1. That's why drawing our timeline helps us so much. And now you know not to. Yes, you may see the question. Remember, this is worth a lot of marks, which means you are allowed to spend a lot of time figuring it out. That is okay. It is normal. It is good. And if you have questions about things that you don't understand while you're working through it, pop it in the chat. I will be happy to help. I don't want you to be sitting on that side feeling completely lost. If there's something you don't get, pop it in the chat. Hi, Desdemonia. We are busy working through a very tough question. But I have confidence in the class that we are going to be able to get an answer. Okay. Oh, okay. We have our first answers coming in. So, Abu, it's very, very close to mine. It's not the same, but it's very close. $24. Oh my gosh, Uyanda, you have got it 100% correct. You did. Does anyone else need some extra time before I start explaining? If you do, please put your time that you need in the chat so that I don't rush you. We good? Okay. So this first part was looking at the yellow's journey. Now we are going to look at the orange journey. So the orange journey is our 1,900 Rand. So our 1,900 Rand was at this interest rate for 1 year. And then it was at the second interest rate for 5 years. So my second amount is the 1,900, 1 plus 13% over 4. And then it's 4 times in the year that it's happening, but only for 1 year. And then the next thing that happens to it is at 11.2% being compounded monthly for 5 times 12. And that is going to give you 3770,429,362. So we're going to keep all those decimal places so we don't make a mistake. So that is the orange journey. Then we look at the red's journey. The red didn't deal with this interest rate at all. The red's journey only had 3 years at this new interest rate. So my red's journey was 4,100 Rand, 1 plus 11.2% over 12 for 3 years compounded monthly. So that's going to give me 5,728,35648. And then we are going to take all of these values and we are going to add them up, and we get a balance after 8 years of 24,108,19. Who was close? Who was so far away? Who got some of the way, but not all of the way? Let me know how this question went. I want to hear from as many of you as possible. That's totally fine, Oyanda. You can do it completely differently. It does not matter. You must do it the way that your brain likes it. Almost had it. That is great, Theo. Do you see where you went wrong? Cool. Tebogo, Kanyasile, how did you guys find this one? Tidimalo, I haven't heard from you all lesson. Great, Tebogo, that's excellent. Okay, that's also totally fine. Halfway, okay. Nice job, Kimberly. Took you so long. That's totally fine, though. Remember, it's okay to take long for these questions because they are worth so many marks. Rather take your time and be sure of the answer that you're doing. Okay, I'm waiting. Okay, so we got that final amount by taking, I actually think that the highlighter might be our friend. Let's give it a try. We take, oh, it would help if I actually went onto the highlighter. We take this amount and this amount and this amount, and we add them all together, and that's what gives us our final amount. So all we're doing is we're adding. Okay. Okay, the next question has some things which are similar to this and some which are a little bit different, but you can follow a lot of the same logic. So if you didn't get this one 100% and you made some mistakes, the next one you can fix and you can get the next one right. Okay. So the next one, what we're doing is we're doing deposits, but we are also doing withdrawals, which means we're taking some money out. We're going to start this exactly the same way we did the last one, and we're going to start by drawing our timeline. Okay, I like to sort of see what my timeline is going to be. They say they want to know how much money is available after 5 years. So I know that my end time is 5 years. Okay, they told us that initially we had 120,000 that was invested. So our original amount was 120,000. The interest was fixed at 11.2% per annum compounded quarterly for the first 3 years. So at T3, so for this time over here, our interest rate was 11.25% compounded quarterly. And then it changed to 9.75% compounded monthly. Then they've told us that there was a withdrawal of 40,000 Rand that was made after 18 months. So 18 months is 1.5 years. Now, if it's a withdrawal, if I'm taking that money out, am I going to have a plus sign or am I going to have a minus sign? I'm going to have a minus sign. Good. So for this question, very similar idea. You're going to work out the journey of your 120,000 Rand. So you're going to pretend that withdrawal doesn't exist. So you're going to work out that yellow value. Then you're going to work out the orange value, which is the journey that this 40,000 Rand would have had if it had been in that account. And what do you think you're going to do once you've worked out those two things? Are we going to add? Yeah, we're going to minus. We're going to minus because, so we're going to minus the orange journey from the yellow journey because it doesn't exist. It's been taken out of the account. So when we're doing deposits, we're going to add. And when we're doing withdrawals, we're going to minus. But everything else is the same logic. Take your time. Make sure you're happy with your answers. Very curious to see what answers you guys get. And I'm excited. I think I'm going to see some good answers. Okay, we have our first answer coming in. Should I say if it's right or not? I don't know. I'm not going to say it. I'm only going to tell you if it's right or not after I see two more answers in the chat. Doesn't mean if they're the same. Okay, so Yanda has an answer. He's feeling less confident about it. I'm curious. Okay, so Uyanda and Abu got the same value. So they either both made the same mistake or they both did something right. One more answer and I will put you out of your misery. No one else feeling brave? Okay. Can you see that? That is our third answer. So time to take you out of your misery. You are all 100% correct. Nice job. So let's have a look at our yellows journey. Our yellows journey. We're trying to find out the A amount for our yellow. We started with 120,000. And it had an interest rate of 11.25% that was compounded quarterly for 3 years. We're going to say 4 times 3 up there. And then what happened to it is it had an interest rate of 9.75% compounded monthly. And this was for 2 years that it was being compounded monthly. And so we can put that straight into our calculator and we get 203,271,9789. And remember, keep those 4 decimal places for your final answer. Then we're going to work out the yellow one's journey, the orange journey. So the orange journey is we had 40,000 Rand. This is 1.5 years. So it was at this interest rate, compounded quarterly for 1.5 times 4. And then it had the exact same for the last bit. And we can work that out on our calculator and we get 57,369,45745. And our final amount is the 203,271,9789 minus, because it was a withdrawal, the 57369. And that gives us the beautiful total of 145,902,52. Does anyone have any questions about that? Let me know if you do. Happy? Okay. You guys are like so demanding of where you want this money. If you got it for a sec, that is progress, is it not? Okay, last question of the night is very, very similar to this one. It's a loan repayment. So I'm going to explain what that looks like. If we have a loan, it means we start off with a certain amount. So we start off with, in this case, 140,000. And then we're going to pay off money. And if we're paying off money, it's going to be minusing, because it's going to be minusing what we owe. Okay. If you think about it, like if you buy a TV that you can't afford, you're paying it off. So you're taking that money from there. So let's see. It's repaid as following. Total time is 5 years. So we'll put that there. The amount that is left in the account is going to be called our balance. So that's what we still are going to have to pay at the end of the 5 years. So we start with 140,000 Rand loan. After year 1, we paid, so that's going to be minus 55,000 Rand. 25,000 Rand was paid after 3 years. So then we've got T3, we paid 25,000 Rand. And after a further 5 years, he repays the final outstanding amount. So we want to know what that fine. The interest was 15% per annum compounded monthly for the entire thing. So we don't have an interest rate change. 15% compounded monthly. We want to know what that balance is. So we essentially are wanting to know what that final A value is. So it's not as bad as it seems because we don't have interest changes. We're going to work out the yellow one's journey, which is not actually that hectic because it's just one thing that we're doing. And you can actually do this one in one single line. Then we're going to subtract our orange journey. And we're going to subtract our red journey. And that's going to give us our balance. And you can do it all in one line. Be careful of how you round this one off. Giving accounting. Yeah, but only like the cool part of accounting. See, financial math questions, they look horrible. They look so gross. But so the thing is, Tebogo eventually, so like he's paying off this loan, right? He's slowly paying off this loan. And he wants to pay off the whole final amount that I have. So whatever is left in this loan at the 5 years, he wants to pay that off. We're trying to find out what that amount would be so that it would be 0. So think of it as like, this is payment 1, this is payment 2, and this will be payment 3. Okay. One, 6, 1, 4, 7, 7. I'm saying nothing, Boo. There you go. 2 more minutes, guys. 2 more minutes to come up with an answer. Okay, let's see. Rihanna saying so. Oh, we got two different answers happening. Interesting. Let's see. Let's see what the third answer that comes in. Let's see if it agrees with Uyanda or if it agrees with Abu. I know they're hard. They're like, the thing is though with these questions is if you can draw your timeline, you're actually fine because you can just kind of follow the different journeys, and then you'll end up getting these huge marks. And if you don't learn to draw your timelines properly, when you look at a question like this, you're just like, what the hell? What am I supposed to do? Oh, I'm excited. I hope we do get a third different answer. If you've got an answer, it doesn't matter what it is, pop it in the chat. Let's see where we're at. And then we can go through it. Okay, so Abu, you were correct. And Uyanda, I think what happened is I don't think you left 4 decimal places for all of your things. I think that's what happened. Let's take a quick look. We can actually do this in one line. I would do it in one line. My balance, that's what I'm looking for. That's this final amount over here, is the journey of my 140,000. So my 140,000, its journey is 1 plus 15% compounded monthly for 5 years times 12. Then I am going to subtract my orange journey. So I'm subtracting my 55,000, whose journey is 1 plus 15% over 12. And it's only dealing with this for 4 years. So it's going to be 4 times 12. And then I'm going to subtract my red journey, which is my 25,000, 1 plus 15% over 12. And it's now only there for 2 years. And I put that whole line straight into my calculator, exactly like that. And I get the beautiful answer of 161,477,094. Now we have to round it off to 2 decimal places because it is money. This 5 makes this 9 turn this into a 1. So it becomes 161,477, 10. Who has questions?